Do you know what time it is? Hi friends, I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be testing out a eyeshadow dupe for a palette that I love so much. So Alter Ego is a brand that dupes a lot of really high-end eyeshadow palettes, and I always do a comparison when a launch happens that dupes a palette that's a favorite of mine. And this time it's this palette right here. This is called the Coastal palette. And it's actually a dupe for the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz, which is like one of my all-time favorite palettes. So I was like, you know what? I really want to see how this compares and if it is something that I consider to be a dupe for the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz. I love this palette. I think the color story is so inspiring to me. It's just one of my favorites to dip into, you guys know. But it's also a $70 eyeshadow palette. So I'm excited to see if this Alter Ego palette lives up to my expectations. Here it is. It looks so pretty. I love a fresh eyeshadow palette, honestly. Here it is up close so you can see everything in detail. And then of course I will show you side by side with the Huda Beauty one so you can see this is 100% a dupe for the Huda Beauty palette. So you guys know the drill. I usually do one eye with the Alter Ego palette, one eye with the Huda Beauty, and we see how they compare. This palette just launched. I believe it's available today, the day that I'm uploading this, and this retails for $20. So quite a bit of a price difference already. And then I actually have a coupon code with Alter Ego too, so you can save even more. So I'll have that down below, but first, let's try the palette. I'm just using my Nars eyeshadow primer. This is just my go-to primer. And when I do these videos, I always gather the same brushes. So I've got two sets of like similar brushes so that I don't mix the colors together, so we get a really solid review. All right, so the eyeshadow primer is on. Okay, so here's everything swatched on the arm. On the top row, we have the Huda Beauty palette, and on the bottom row is the Alter Ego Coastal palette. As I swatch them, you can see how similar so many of the shades are, especially some of these shimmer shades. The mattes actually swatched really beautifully as well. I will say the one that just I don't really feel like was too similar is Coral, which is this one, this kind of like jelly formula. I honestly don't use that formula in the Rose Quartz palette, and I just don't feel like they were very similar. Everything else though looks very promising and are super good dupes, just based off of the swatches anyway. All right, let's get started. I'm gonna start off with the Huda Beauty palette, and I'm gonna take the shade Cherished, which is a really pretty light pink, and I'm just kind of laying down a little bit of groundwork. It's a little bit too light to be a transition shade, but I'm gonna try to use as many shades as possible in the eye look so we can get a really good feel for how they apply. The corresponding shade in the Alter Ego palette is Jellyfish, so we're gonna take that with the other brush and apply that all over just to get things started. Now I'm gonna take the shade Radiate from the Huda Beauty palette and the same brush, and I'm just gonna start deepening up the crease using this color, blending it out toward the end of the brow. The corresponding shade in this palette is Wreath, so I'm gonna dip into that and start applying this into the crease as well. I can already tell that this one is more taupey than this one, like this one's pulling more pink already. So there's a slight difference in those two shades. I'm just applying a little bit more of Radiate so we can see the difference. See how this one's like more of a taupey purple and this one pulls a little bit more pink once applied. So we're noticing slight differences right now. I'm not sure if it's a deal breaker yet, but let's keep going. Now I'm going to take the shade Gratitude from the Huda Beauty palette, and I'm just going to warm up the outer edge of the eye with this. And then while I'm here, I'm actually going to take Aura, which is the shade right next to it, and I'm just using the same brush, and I'm going to layer that on top to start to deepen things up. Same thing with the Alter Ego palette. We're going to dip into Shallow, which is the dupe for Gratitude. We're going to use that on the outer corner just to start creating a little bit more depth and warmth. And then taking the same brush going into Cocoa, which is the dupe for Aura, and I'm just building that up on the outer corner as well. Now I'm gonna take the shade Abundance, which is like a really pretty purpley taupe shimmer, and I'm gonna start to apply that on the center of the eyelid using my finger. In the Alter Ego palette, I'm gonna go into Siren and do the same thing, just applying that to the eyelid. Now I'm gonna go in with one of my favorite shades from the Huda palette, and that is Blissful. It's so stunning. I love this one so much. And I'm gonna pop that in more of the inner corner, but also kind of feather it onto that taupey metallic shade that we just applied. And then I'm gonna go into Pearl from the Alter Ego palette and do the same thing. I feel like I was the most curious to see how these shimmer shades applied because they're really special colors. So I was interested to see if the Alter Ego ones kind of like achieved the same effect. I will say that one's really pretty. It has a little bit more blue in it, I feel, versus my Huda one has a little more purple. But I mean, both are really pretty. Now I'm going to take the shade Mantra, and I'm going to use this as kind of a shadow liner on the upper eyelid. And then I'm going to dip into the shade Haze in the Alter Ego palette and do the same thing on the other eye. Okay, now I'm just going to clean up the fallout with a makeup wipe. Honestly, there's a bit more fallout with the Huda Beauty one at this point, which is kind of interesting. I'm just going to use my finger to tap out the edge. And then I'm going to apply some mascara. This is the Nabla Vicious Mascara. All right, mascara's on. I'm going to quickly do the rest of my makeup and then we'll finish up the lower lash line and see how everything looks. Okay, so I have my makeup done except for the lower lash line. I'm going to dip into the shade Serenity in the Huda Beauty palette and just start using that to kind of buff out the lower lash line. And if you want to know what else is on my face, I'll have it linked down below for you. Just kind of blending it into the existing shadows on the top lid. And then I'm going to take the shade Breeze in the Alter Ego palette and buff that across the lower lash line on the other eye. I'm actually going to stay in the Alter Ego palette and I'm going to dip into Sparkle, which is one of my favorite shades from the Huda Beauty palette. And I'm going to use this as my inner corner highlight. It has a gorgeous kind of bluish pink shift, which I love. It's so pretty. So now I'm going to go into Moon Magic from the Huda Beauty palette, which is the corresponding shade, and I'm going to pop that in the inner corner of the other eye. Those are actually very similar. I feel like honestly there's like slight differences in the base color of the shadows. Like the Huda Beauty one has a little bit more of a pink base, where the Alter Ego one pulls a little bit brighter, like it has a little bit more of a bright blue. Both are stunning. I mean, they look very similar next to each other. Now I'm taking the shade Shell from the Alter Ego palette, which is this color right here. It's like a really nice pink. I'm gonna apply that across the lower lash line and then go into Happiness in the Huda palette and kind of do the same thing. Okay, I'm just kind of playing around with the look really quick. I'm taking Cosmic Love, which is this color right here, and I'm just applying that to the outer third of the lower lash line. Again, I'm just trying to like apply as many shades as possible so we can see how dupeable that palette is. In the Alter Ego palette, it's this color right here called Ripple, and I'm just gonna do the same thing on the other eye. I feel like I normally wouldn't do this many colors on my eyes, but again, I'm trying to see how all the shades look. So I'm just taking the fluffy brush that we used with each eye, kind of blending that out. I feel like there's not much more I can do without it looking kind of muddy. So I'm just gonna pop on some mascara on the lower lashes and then we'll have my husband come down and try to guess which one's which. Do you know what time it is?
Okay, I'm on my way.
Ooh, okay. Hi, sweetie pie.
Say hi to mommy.
Hi, honey.
Say,
Which one do you think it is?
say my nap was very short.
Oh, no. And I haven't shared my thoughts quite yet, but I have thoughts, so I'm interested to see what your thoughts are.
Alrighty. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Thailand.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Like this?
Yeah. Yes, I can see. Shoot.
That's ridiculous.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
This is Alter Ego.
Yeah, you always win. You always guess right.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. What makes you say it?
The shimmer is a lot just kind of brighter.
Yeah.
That was kind of a wild guess. They look the same.
They look so similar. I feel like Alter Ego always shines with the shimmer. Their shimmers shine.
It
but
looks
the
a little
mattes
more
are usually
golden,
hard
too.
to work with. Or I should say, you have to build up the mattes a little bit more.
I see.
That was my opinion, which I can give my opinion
Unbelievable.
now. But I mean, it's very, very similar.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah, you're going to get the same vibe. All right, so there you have it. He guessed right. I do have some thoughts. I'm sure you could see as I was applying it, I feel like the undertones of some of the mattes are slightly different. The shimmers really do look so pretty with the Alter Ego. Like the shimmer shade that I have on the lid is packing a little bit more of a punch. Even though it pulls slightly different, you're definitely going to get the same effect with this palette. I feel like it's actually not as close of a dupe as some of the other palettes that Alter Ego has created. With that being said though, you're going to get a very similar effect. There's pros and cons to each, honestly. The price being a con to this one, the pro being the formula is super easy to blend. The undertones on some of the matte pull through a little bit differently. Like they have a little bit more magic to them as far as like the pinks that end up coming through when you blend out some of those shades. This leans a little bit more taupey with some of the mattes, and the mattes are a little bit more hard to work with. I wouldn't say that they're hard to work with, but they just take a little bit more time to build up. The shimmers in here though, I feel like are super pretty. I mean, you get something really magical and special, which is kind of where it matters with this palette, I feel like, because that's what most of the looks are going to be created with, I feel, are the shimmer shades and the metallics. So I do feel like Alter Ego does a good job at the shimmers and metallics. But ultimately, Huda Beauty has a much more luxe formula all around, obviously, and that's kind of what you're paying for. But yeah, I mean, it would definitely just be up to you. As always, I feel like as a makeup investor, I'm somebody who's all about going for the original if you feel like that's something that's in your budget, if that's something that you want to spend your money on. But I totally get how many people out there probably would never spend $70 on an eyeshadow palette. And in that case, I feel like you would get such an amazing look using the Alter Ego palette for $50 less, which is significant for sure. So again, it's just kind of up to you. I do feel like there's pros and cons to each, so take that for what it's worth. This palette is luxe. You won't be disappointed in this palette for sure if you end up spending the $70. I feel like it's worth the $70 in my opinion. I've gotten so much use out of it, plus the packaging is just stunning, but you also wouldn't be disappointed in this palette if you just want to get the effect and you really love that ethereal kind of look, but you're not wanting to spend $70. So let me know in the comments down below what you thought about the dupes. I do feel like the Huda Beauty kind of overall has a little bit more of a smooth transition with the mattes and kind of the undertones there. But honestly, if you just look at this eye by itself, I'm trying to cover it up. This eye by itself, it's still such a gorgeous look. Some of those undertones are missing, but it's not a deal breaker in my opinion. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. I will have the new Coastal palette linked below, as well as some of my other Alter Ego favorite dupes in the description box too. I love to compare palettes, and they definitely have so many amazing ones. They have a lot of great Natasha Denona dupes, so if you're somebody who has wanted to try like the Natasha Denona Glam palette, they do a really great dupe for that, and so I'll leave those down below. I always mention this in my dupe videos as well, and this is more so for the Natasha Denona formulas for me, but I like having two options. I know that sounds crazy, but if I travel and I'm packing my makeup and I don't want to risk a $70, or in the Natasha Denona's case, like over $100 palettes breaking, I like to pack the more affordable dupe option, you know? I just feel like for me, it gives me peace of mind when traveling because eyeshadows tend to break the most, I feel. Just pressed powders in general can be pretty fragile. So that's kind of how I like to use my dupe palettes. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, everything will be linked down below. You really could go either way. You won't be disappointed with either, but this one's always gonna have like a special, special place in my heart. I love the original. And I also love that you can get something so similar for so much less. So yeah, that's it for me today. I hope you all have an amazing day wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Love you. Bye.